Tonight on CTV, reports of a fake police officer has the city on edge. We'll tell you what you can do to avoid being scammed.
And this protest took a turn when a city council candidate was forcibly removed by police officers while protesting police force.
You just demonstrated exactly what I was talking about.
Plus, what has happened to Fort Collins' favorite events, Art Night? Lauren Orcutt has the story tonight on CTV.
It's a nationwide effort to take away power from the Electoral College, and Colorado legislators are on board. I'm Ryan Crist.
And I'm Marlo Lundak. Thank you for joining us tonight. Ryan, what's going on with the Electoral College?
Yeah, Colorado is joining with other states to give power back to the popular vote. The Colorado Electoral College will officially be voting with the majority of Americans in the 2020 election. What does this mean? Well, whichever candidate wins the popular vote will be the candidate that gets Colorado's electoral votes, even if that's not who Colorado voters chose. 11 other states have joined what they're calling the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Governor Jared Polis agreed to sign the bill, which was approved by the Democrat-controlled legislature earlier today.
Fort Collins residents are on high alert after a woman reported being pulled over by a fake police officer in South Fort Collins. The incident happened on Monday evening, and according to the woman's Facebook post in the Fort Collins Neighborhood Watch Group, the impersonator asked the woman to get out of her car and refused to show a badge or identification when she asked for it. The impersonator was driving a black Dodge Charger and is described as a white male in his late 20s, about 6 feet tall, dark hair, and brown eyes. Police services confirmed that no officers conducted a stop in that area at that time. Fort Collins PD released a video Wednesday giving tips on what to do if you find yourself in a similar situation. If you're unsure if you're getting pulled over by an officer, call 911. This allows dispatch to track the vehicle. Fort Collins PD also suggests turning on your hazard lights, pulling over in a public, well-lit area, and to remain respectful and courteous no matter who they might be. Finally, residents should ask for police identification and try to remember as many details about the person and their vehicle as possible.
A tragic case is coming to a close. The man accused of killing Fort Collins resident Kimberly Graves was sentenced to 30 years in prison today. Khaled White pled guilty to first-degree murder and 7 other felony charges as part of a plea bargain to avoid a trial and the possibility of the death penalty and life in prison. Police officials say DNA evidence and phone records helped them solve the 2017 murder.
The Associated Students of CSU said no thank you to the smoking and tobacco ban in last night's Senate session. The ASCSU Senate was split over an amendment that could challenge a statewide smoking ban. After Senate amended the resolution to clarify which substances are allowed on campus, the resolution narrowly passed. Many believe the ban was directly against CSU's principles of diversity and discriminated against students and staff members who suffer from nicotine addiction. Earlier in the meeting, President Tristan Siren talked about creating a new committee to improve diversity culture within ASCSU.
I think I've avoided the problem long enough of the culture of ASCSU. I've avoided talking about it when I can. I've said that, oh, it's getting better. And that was a victory for me, that it was getting better. Well, the reality of the situation is that's not a victory. And I think it's part of the idea of focus on the present is to take action now. So we'll be sending out a sign-up sheet. We don't know what the name of it's going to be called yet, but right now I have Council on Culture, Inclusivity, Diversity, and Accountability.
President Siren and Chief Justice Madison Taylor addressed concerns regarding potentially fraudulent endorsements of the Darwin Day bill. Taylor and the ASCSU Supreme Court believe that endorsements without explicit consent will be considered fake from now on.
Do you have dinner plans tonight? It's a question a lot of us ask. But if you live in Fort Collins with more than 650 restaurants, making a decision can be a lot harder. Pizza in Fort Collins is a staple. Panhandlers has been around for more than 45 years and recently reopened under new management. Luann DeCourcy has watched the restaurant scene evolve.
It's been interesting to watch it really evolve. Expanded so much, but we've seen so many people come and go, and everybody tries the market. Some things stick, some things don't.
Why so many restaurants? Fort Collins is growing. 3,000 more people move here every year. It's growing twice as fast as Denver.
I think everybody wants newer, better, bigger, faster. And I think a lot of people look at Fort Collins and see all the growth and it's the best city to live and we get all these accolades. And so I think a lot of people from outside of Fort Collins try and come in. And again, it's just throwing it. Seems like a lot of restaurateurs are throwing it at the wall and a lot's not sticking.
A lot of places are trying. In 2018, we had nearly 50 restaurants and food trucks open while 24 restaurants closed, ranging from local places like Bassetti's to chains like Old Chicago's. Why are all these places closing if we have a population that can support it?
Rents are going up to ridiculous amounts. Minimum wage is going up.
So why are new restaurants opening when so many others are failing? A new donut shop opened just last year.
It's true. I mean, it's always a risk, any type of food service. There's also a lot of coffee shops. We do coffee is about 30% of our business.
But while there are a lot of challenges, restaurant owners say there's always the chance they will survive.
This is, they call it the choice city, and I think people choose to be here.
While it was a rough year for some restaurants, it's already been announced that at least 7 more are opening up in 2019.
A protest against police officers using force ended in a city council candidate being forcibly removed from the city council chambers on Tuesday evening. Susan Holmes used her 3 minutes of public comment to argue that the city should be reconsidering police training procedures instead of investing in a new training facility with the Loveland Police Force. When she continued to argue after her 3 minutes were up, Mayor Wade Troxel warned her not to disrupt the meeting or police would have to escort her out. As you can see from this video obtained from the Coloradoan, when Holmes refused to stop speaking, police picked her up by the arms and carried her out. Holmes was not charged with anything and is welcome to come back to any future meetings.
You guys just demonstrated. You just demonstrated exactly what I was talking about. We don't need that new facility over there. We need use of force policy that is about de-escalation.
Was shot and killed by police in 2017 after she called 911 with concerns about his mental state. According to police body cam footage, he was shot after he lunged at police with a hunting knife. Holmes hopes to represent District 2 of Fort Collins, which Ray Martinez currently represents, and is campaigning on police reforms and emphasizing de-escalation tactics.
Hot take, higher education is expensive. That was the major talking point for Colorado Representative Joe Neguse, who visited campus yesterday to talk with students about strengthening our future. Edgar Cedillo has the details.
Congressman Joe Neguse was on campus yesterday to talk to CSU students about student debt, the environment, and the current state of the government.
You had a number of elections that were historic in nature, not just mine, but our governor, of course, my predecessor.
Neguse feels like states can do more than the federal government when it comes to funding for higher education.
There's a lot more that can be done by the legislature at the state level to increase funding for public higher education. I think that should be a priority.
He expressed some ways that the federal government can do to help students.
Lowering the refinance rates by way of example, right, so that you can refinance a student loan the same rate that you can refinance your mortgage.
When it comes to environmental policy, he says he's taking the lead by following the example of cities across the state.
Cities and local municipalities have taken the lead with these 100% renewable energy commitments, including the city of Fort Collins. And so from my perspective, much of my work in Washington is really following the lead of the district that I'm lucky to represent.
He also noted a CSU student who he invited to his first State of the Union address.
To have him there and to be able to highlight his journey and the values, the benefits that he provides to this community and this university. He is just as American as anyone in this room, including myself.
Neguse finished off his visit to Fort Collins with a visit with President Tony Frank. Reporting for CTV 11, I'm Edgar Cedillo.
Well, Marlo, CSU hasn't seen a snow day in about 3 years, but that doesn't mean getting to and from campus can't be difficult in the winter.
Yeah, Ryan, it's especially hard for students with disabilities. We might have only seen a few flakes this week, but there's a chance of a storm in the coming days. Sydney, can you tell us more about how students with disabilities might be affected by this?
While Fort Collins has many different forms of transportation, some disabled students struggle getting to and around campus in the winter. The snow gets pushed off the roads and up onto the curbs, making it an obstacle for people in wheelchairs or those who have a mobility limitation difficult. Buses around campus, like around the Horn, have wheelchair accessibility to those who need it, but it only gets students close to where they need to be, not where they actually need to be. The stairs that get left with snow and ice make it a hazard for students to possibly break or sprain their ankles. The whole campus does get cleared off of snow quite fast, but not as fast for all of us to still go to class. I'm sure many students would appreciate a snow day. I know that I would. But for more information on when we should be expecting our next snow on campus, stay tuned for weather later on.
Thanks, Sydney. I know I definitely could use another snow day. Do you feel supported here at CSU? Well, the President's Commission on Women and Gender Equity hopes every student and faculty member feels included and supported, regardless of gender. Janae Hancock has more.
The President's Commission on Women and Gender Equity is working hard here at CSU to keep an inclusive environment where gender identity is supported.
The President's Commission on Women and Gender Equity serves as a recommending body for representing the entire university, faculty, staff, and students, to keep sort of a pulse on what the culture and climate is within the university around gender-related issues, and channel those recommendations and insights up to the President's office and our top administration.
Serving as a conscience for CSU, CWGE has the ability to track areas that need improvement and face any areas of concern.
So what inspired me to pursue this position was just the awareness, the building awareness that I've had around the lack of representation of women and gender equity issues in structure, policy, process, and from my own organization all the way throughout campus.
The Commission shares CSU's goal to make campus the best environment for women to work, born female or not, are included.
What sets us apart from the other commissions is our focus on creating an inclusive culture and climate around gender for everybody.
If you're curious or just want to get involved with shifting the culture and climate on gender, the Women and Gender Collaborative's website lists plenty of resources.
So if people want to get actively involved, there are lots of opportunities for students to have their voices be heard beyond just what the commission does of having representatives carry concerns up to the administration.
So I think that the more a woman informs, or a person informs themselves about what they're experiencing and trying to understand that, they can navigate their situation better and also start making change.
So the commission would be a place where I would strongly recommend that people understand it's a resource for them and it's a representative body.
This is Janae Hancock reporting with CTV.
The CWGE office is located off campus at the diversity offices, but they're also partnered up with other identity resources located in the LSC.
A greener way to get around town is on its way to Fort Collins. The Fort Collins City Council is considering allowing e-scooters on city streets, but first has to figure out where riders can park them and where they can be ridden. E-scooters launched in Denver, but a lack of parking and riding regulations made them a headache for the city. The city hopes to avoid that problem, but some council members felt the regulations came too soon because Colorado law still says scooters are toy vehicles, so they're not allowed on the streets. If Fort Collins finds scooter vendors, they could be here by the summer. Stick around, Rams, because Sydney Wicker is going to tell us if we can expect snow tonight.
Maston Bonner now. Back to Moore in between the circles. Lobs to the elbow for Carvacho and a good pick
And it was a
roll
landslide win
to
for the CSU men's basketball team, but not so much for the women's team. Litos Castro breaks it down for us after the break.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
Hello Rams and welcome back from the break. I'm Sydney Wicker here to bring you all you need to know on this week's weather. Let's get started by taking a look at your current conditions. Currently it's looking a little cloudy with a slight chance of snow. With that 8 miles per hour wind coming in from the east, it's making it a little bit colder than 23 degrees right now. There's a 25% chance of precipitation in the air, which will lead to the snow that we could possibly see later on tonight. For most of the day today, the snow was dried up. But there was a slight breeze going in, like I mentioned earlier. It's been going on all day. It's still been pretty cold outside, so there's lots of students still in big coats as they were passing through and around campus today. But the sun was out, making it feel a little bit better than it has on those cloudy days. And of course, there was lots of good puppies on campus today. They were trying to enjoy the little bit of fresh air and the sunshine that was out while it was out. Looking at tonight's lows, it's scattered teens across the I-25 corridor. Looking to warm up a little bit in Pueblo, but mostly in the eastern region, in Lamar with 24 and Burlington with 20. But as we look into the western slope, it's going to drop down to 17 and 19 in Alamosa and all the way down to 9 in Gunnison. Looking at tomorrow's highs, in the southern region, they're going to be warming up to the 40s and 50s in Lyman and Burlington. And across the I-25 corridor, it's going to be 30s and even warm up to 45 in Pueblo. Taking a look at tomorrow's temperatures, it's going to be a high of 30 and a low of 17 with a slight chance of snow, and it is going to be really cloudy, so it's not going to be very warm on campus, so I definitely prepare to bring a jacket. As we're looking at the participation, it's going to be about 50% with those PM showers like I mentioned. If we take a look at your 5-day forecast, looking in the weekend, it's going to be a little sunny. So if you have any plans, be sure to get out and enjoy this 40 degrees while you can, because it's going to drop down all the way to 37 on Monday and with the lowest on Tuesday being 19. All right, Ram fans, that is all I have for you this week, but thanks for tuning in to weather, and don't go anywhere because up next is Litos Castro with all the highlights for men's and women's basketball. Stay tuned.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream, that I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly, just to come back in a new disguise and be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
How's it going, Rams? Welcome back from the break. I'm Litos Castro, filling in for Jared Stratton. Oh, I miss him too, don't worry. But we still have all the sports info covered for you. So without further ado, let's get rolling with it. Starting off on a high note, the men's basketball team was able to end their 3-game losing streak when they traveled to San Jose State last night and came away with the victory 91-70 over the Spartans. The highest scorer of the Spartans was Seneca Knight, who managed to make 7 baskets for 14 points for his team. However, this was not enough to compete with the big numbers being put up from the Rams side, with 6 CSU members being able to have double-digit point counts in the game. The main leaders were Chris Martin with 19 points and even Nico Carvaccio getting a double-double to his name with 18 points and 19 rebounds. This marks the 8th time in a row that the men's team has defeated San Jose State on their home turf, and they will look to carry that momentum forward in their rematch against Wyoming on Saturday afternoon. Despite the men's win, the women's basketball team did not have the same success as the men did. Also facing San Jose State last night in Moby Arena, the Rams started strong with the lead early in the first quarter. However, the Spartans were able to pull it back and hold on to a lead that the Rams were eventually never able to come back from. The story of the night seemed to be in the scoring game, where the Rams could not put up the points that they needed. CSU missed 3/4 of the 36 three-point shots that they took, which would make sense considering they seemed to check out for the last 3 quarters of the game. CSU would eventually fall 70-78 against the Spartans. The Rams will need to pull it together when they also face Wyoming on Saturday. If you watched our Monday Night Sports Show, you might know that the women's golf team wasn't doing so hot to start off the spring season. The men's golf team looked to avoid the same story yesterday when they faced off against DU in a dual match in California. The day went so long that they couldn't even finish the second match due to it being too dark. Nonetheless, the Rams were able to come away victorious on their first day back since November, being led by sophomore Parathikorn Suyasri, who shot 3 under 69, taking the top spot in the duel. The Rams will hope to continue their winning trend as they compete in the Wyoming Desert Intercollegiate Friday through Sunday. All right, in honor of Jared, I'm going to give it my go at the 1-minute challenge where he tries to fit in as much sports news as he can in 1 minute. So let's get that timer rolling. Starting us off, college basketball in chaos after Zion Williamson went down with a knee injury early in last night's game when Duke was playing against rival North Carolina. This puts a worry on his contract with Nike as he still has 8 more years to go with that. At the same time, there is also talks of the NBA draft being lowered from 19 to 18 years old, which would be big news for any young college stars such as Zion Williamson who are becoming national news. Speaking of the NBA, the second half of the season is starting up and the Nuggets have managed to stay in second place in the West. Now on to the NFL, Le'Veon Bell is home free from the Steelers and looking to see if another team will steal his heart. Moving over to the MLB, Manny Machado settled for money over championships, signing a 10-year, $300 million contract with the San Diego Padres, which also gives star Bryce Harper the opening to also get a big contract with the Phillies, being the biggest pusher for him right now. Looking at the NHL, history was made at the Pepsi Center this week where A.J. Greer and Andrew Agozzino of the Colorado Avalanche were able to score their first NHL goals of their careers. Whew, I don't know how he does that. Goodness gracious. That was rough. All right, Rams, that's all I have for sports, but stay tuned because when we come back, we have Lauren Orcutt bringing us the story of what happened to the when she brings you the entertainment up next.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Good evening, Rams. I'm Lauren, your entertainment enthusiast, here to dive into your local entertainment news. CSU alumni Dr. Evan Anton has both beauty and brains, and now he's getting his own Animal Planet show. Anton graduated in 2013 and rose to fame after BuzzFeed took notice of his Instagram filled with pictures of him and his furry patients. Forbes, coined him as America's sexiest veterinarian, and his career just went up from there. The show will be called Anton Goes Wild and will follow him around the world as he travels and treats exotic animals. The show will air at 7 on Sunday evening on the Animal Planet channel. To all my beer haters, it is finally your time. A new winery has opened in Old Town. Denver-based Infinite Monkey Theorem opened this Saturday right off North College Avenue. They have wine from the tap, from the bottle, the can, and wine served in flights. Come summer, they will serve wine slushies. Owner and winemaker Ben Parsons says that we are excited to be a part of the community and we will try to win over our guests. Having wine on tap is just about all the winning over I need. If you are an avid artist and have been to the Downtown Artery Art Night, your heart may have slightly broken after hearing the news that the last art night was on Friday, but I'm here to cheer you up because that is not the case. Maxwell Treader, assistant director of the Artery, alongside his friends, were the brains behind Art Night.
Me and my housemates and sort of group of friends didn't want to really engage with the typical party scene here. We were all musicians or artists of some sort of fashion, so we had this empty space in my basement living room where we all met up and brought instruments and just sort of collaborated with one another, and we're like, wow, that was fun, we should do that again.
The infamous art night eventually outgrew Tretter's basement.
It had grown, enough of a following that we had 300 to 500 people show up over the course of every night, and that's too many people for a house. And the artery at that time was in a huge point of transition where they were really open to new ideas and they wanted to find ways to foster more of a creative community. So me being hired on, I was like, I already have this night at my house. Like, if we introduce it here, this space would be perfect for it because there's a venue, there's an art gallery upstairs, there's all these different lounge areas. Like, as long as we fill them with instruments and art supplies, like, we could totally make art night happen here. So they were immediately on board. And since then, Artery's been a perfect platform to help that grow.
February 15th was the last night the Artery hosted Art Night. Not because it wasn't successful, but because Tretter had bigger plans for it.
Since it's been here, it's done a great job of fostering a creative community, but I think we can have a much larger impact if we hit that grassroots scene. So that's why it was the last one here, because I'd like to take it somewhere else with me when I leave.
The Artery may no longer be the home to Art Night. However, Tretter encourages everyone to embrace their expression.
Yeah, I just really encourage people to start something themselves because, so many people would be on board with it. That was the one thing that I discovered from Art Night. Like, if you start something, people will totally follow, and it's fun. Yeah.
You can find out more about where the new Art Night will be located by joining the Art Night Facebook group at facebook.com/Art Night. All right, Rams, it's time to release our inner Simon Cowell and give the top Spotify trending artists our critiques on how they made it in this top spot on Spotify's trending charts. Biggie Smalls, Ice Cube, and Tupac fans, this one might make you shed a tear. The #1 spot goes to a new rapper named Blueface with his current hit, Tatiana. Blueface, also known as Jonathan Porter, rose to the charts after becoming a meme because of his offbeat style of rapping. Tatiana is rising in the charts, not because it's actually good, but because the Twitter is all over the song calling it hilariously horrible. It has over 60 million listeners, and that number keeps growing, thanks to all the internet trolls tearing the song apart. Next week, I will be investigating the artist who makes the cut for the top spot on Spotify's trending charts. And to leave you with a heartwarming story, a father who had the opportunity to walk his daughter down the aisle before it was too late. 57-year-old Paul Justice walked his daughter Grace down the aisle in a speedy wedding after Justice and his family found out that he had a blood clot in his brain as well as leukemia. The wedding day was set for Valentine's Day. The ceremony was held in the chapel of Poudre Valley Hospital, and the aisle was a hallway of the hospital, lined with their loved ones.
Wow, what a touching story. I'm so glad that Paul and Grace got to walk down the aisle together, of course surrounded by their loved ones. What couldn't have been better?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's one thing on my mind.
What's that?
What do you think about the latest Kardashian scandal?
It broke my heart a little bit. I'm a little salty about it. I do not like Tristan anymore, Tristan Thompson, and I don't think Jordan is a very good friend.
No.
What is this scandal?
You haven't heard?
I haven't heard, actually.
Okay,
let's fill you in, Ryan.
Oh, please.
Basically, Jordan Woods is Kylie Jenner's best friend.
Okay.
And they live together. She helped Kylie raise Stormi, all that jazz.
Right, Stormi.
You want to finish it off?
Name.
Stormi.
Basically, Jordan and Tristan had a little affair one night.
Tristan is Khloe Kardashian's baby daddy.
Baby daddy, yes. So that's a bit of a mess right now. So we're living for it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely a mess, I would say.
Disappointing.
Disappointed. I know.
Yeah, but
with all that fame.
Exactly.
That's what it is, but we'll see how it all plays out, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for you this evening, but stay warm, Rams, and have a good night.